The cop walked into the diner with a swagger, but walked out with a secret shame. He thought mocking a young waiter's shoes would get him a few laughs. What he didn't know was that the man he humiliated would soon be the one holding his life in his hands. And when the truth came out, it left everyone speechless. Please support us by subscribe, like, and share for more with activating the notification bell. Thank you. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon when Officer Raymond Ray Davis strolled into Sunny Diner, a modest, slightly worn-out eatery tucked between a laundromat and a gas station on Fifth Avenue. Known for its homemade pies and unshakably kind staff, the place was a comfort zone for many, but not for Ray. He didn't come for the pie. He came to be seen. Still in uniform, badge gleaming and chest puffed out, Ray was the type who relished his authority even during lunch breaks. He was good at his job, on paper. Multiple commendations, a decade of service, even a small hero feature in the local newspaper. But behind the uniform was a man who used his position less to protect and more to posture. Ray walked in, smirking at the elderly couple who nodded respectfully and slid into his usual booth by the window. Moments later, a young waiter approached, with a notepad and a smile that seemed tired yet genuine. "Afternoon, officer. The usual?" the waiter asked. Ray barely glanced up. "Yep. Club sandwich, extra pickles. And coffee, hot this time." The waiter nodded and turned to leave, but Ray's eyes dropped to the floor. And then it happened. A booming laugh escaped Ray's lips as he pointed to the waiter's shoes, faded, peeling, with a hole near the sole. They were clearly old, patched up with glue in a last-ditch effort to survive another day. "Whoa, hey kid, those shoes fighting in the Civil War or something?" Ray snorted, loud enough for a few other patrons to look up. The diner fell quiet. The waiter paused, his smile stiffening. "They still get me where I need to go," he said quietly, forcing a chuckle. But Ray wasn't done. "Hope the health inspector doesn't see those. Might shut this place down for antique footwear violations," he added, laughing again. The waiter, still trying to preserve dignity, simply nodded and walked back toward the kitchen, gripping his order pad tightly. In the kitchen, he exhaled, deeply. "Let it go," he whispered to himself. "He's just another rude customer. Just get through the shift." But the words stung more than he let on, and that moment, the cruel laugh over his shoes, would be the last straw in a string of quiet humiliations he'd endured for months. The waiter's name was Jeremy Collins, 24, former honor roll student. Once a second-year pre-med at River Valley University, and now a waiter pulling double shifts at Sunny Diner to make ends meet. Those worn-out shoes? They were more than footwear. They were a symbol of sacrifice. Jeremy had once had a promising future. His mother, a cancer survivor, had always called him her miracle child. He had been on the fast track to becoming the first doctor in their family. Scholarships, awards, mentors. Jeremy had it all lined up. Then, 3 years ago, life slammed the brakes. His mother relapsed, stage 4. Insurance barely covered the basics, so Jeremy did what few would dare. He withdrew from school mid-semester and got a job, then another, then another. He never told anyone at the diner why he wore the same shoes every day, why he'd turn down after-hours hangouts or scoff at the idea of new clothes. Every dollar counted. Every hour worked was another pill, another treatment, another week with his mother. The shoes were all he had left from his college days. Comfortable, dependable, but time had caught up to them, and Jeremy. That night after Ray's insult, Jeremy went home exhausted. He walked into a dim, cluttered apartment filled with the soft hum of a medical oxygen machine. His mother, weak but awake, smiled from her recliner. "Long day?" Jeremy nodded and knelt beside her. "The usual, but I'm thinking of applying for night EMT classes again." She touched his face gently. "You never gave up on me. Don't give up on yourself." That conversation rekindled something in him. Jeremy filled out the application that night. EMT training wouldn't be med school, but it was a step back into the world he had walked away from, a world where he could help others, save lives. Even if the journey started with broken shoes and long hours, Weeks passed. Ray returned to the diner less frequently, but Jeremy continued his shifts, still smiling, still wearing the shoes. Meanwhile, Ray's own life was spiraling in a direction he couldn't control. The once proud officer had grown careless. He had received a formal warning for aggressive conduct during a traffic stop. His temper, once dismissed as passion, was finally catching up to him. Then came the call. While responding to a robbery alarm at a small electronics store, Ray and his partner cornered a suspect. Ray chased him down an alley, not realizing the backup was delayed. What happened next was chaos. A flash, a struggle, a shot. Ray collapsed, hit in the side. The world blurred. The next thing he remembered was the back of an ambulance. Pain throbbed through his body. Panic set in. "Breathe, sir. You're going to be okay. We've stopped the bleeding." That voice, calm, focused, familiar. Ray turned his head and saw a young paramedic leaning over him, expertly stabilizing his IV line. It was Jeremy, still in worn shoes, but now wearing the blue uniform of an EMT student on his field training rotation. Ray's mind spun. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Jeremy didn't say a word about the diner, the insult, or the laughter. He simply did his job, cool, efficient, compassionate. Just like a real professional. When Ray arrived at the hospital, the doctor told him he was lucky. Whoever was in that ambulance knew exactly what they were doing. You were bleeding fast. Ray stared at the ceiling. The waiter he had mocked had just saved his life. Ray spent 5 days recovering in the hospital, and each day the memory of that laugh haunted him. Not because of embarrassment, but because of shame. He remembered every detail. The peeling shoes, the way Jeremy smiled through humiliation, and now the quiet strength with which he'd acted in the ambulance. No arrogance, no payback, just grace. On the 6th day, Ray walked, limping slightly, into Sunny Diner. This time, not in uniform. He wore jeans and a simple gray jacket. Jeremy saw him walk in and nodded politely, like he would to any customer. No bitterness, no sarcasm. Ray walked up to the counter, looked Jeremy in the eye, and spoke. "I was a jerk." Jeremy blinked. Ray continued. "I laughed at your shoes, in front of people. It was mean, uncalled for, and it said more about me than about you." The diner had gone quiet again, just like the day of the insult. But this time, there was no mocking. Only a man trying to make things right. Jeremy smiled, just a little. "Thanks for saying that." Ray reached into a shopping bag and pulled out a box. Inside were brand new work shoes, high quality, durable, top of the line. "These are for you," he said, placing them on the counter. "Not because I think you need them, but because you deserve them." Jeremy hesitated. Then slowly, he accepted the box. "I appreciate it. But just so you know, it was never about the shoes." Ray looked confused. Then what was it about? Jeremy met his eyes. "It's about not judging someone by what's on their feet, but by the path. They're walking." A woman at the back of the diner clapped. Then others joined in. Ray smiled for real, perhaps for the first time in years. Months later, Jeremy's story went viral when a local news station picked it up. Waiter turned paramedic saves life of officer who once mocked him. The footage featured the shoes, now framed at the diner's wall, under a plaque that read, "The journey matters more than the condition of the shoes." With Ray's help, Jeremy returned to med school, his tuition quietly sponsored by a fund created in Ray's name, the Second Chances Scholarship. And Ray, he changed too. Less bravado, more humility. He began volunteering at a youth center, mentoring kids who'd grown up like Jeremy, because once a man with broken shoes had walked the high road, and Ray had finally followed.